Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am happy to be here today. I'm excited to be here because I have a special guest with us today. It is Eve was framed. She's asking me right now what she's supposed to do. Um, uh, Basically, hopefully, I'm hoping she figures it out. She needs to tap on my picture, or her picture, or my picture, and then request to join. Let me make sure that she understands that. On my pic, has to join, right? So, we're all, there we go. There, she's all over it. There we go. So she'd be real short. Hey!
Yay, it worked. I was like, wait a second. I don't think I know how to do
Oh, I
this.
totally thought, well, she may not know how. You've never done an IG Live, have you?
I haven't, and I'm honestly like not technologically savvy at all. The
Well,
fact that I am on TikTok is maybe there is a God because I don't know how I figured that out.
TikTok is impressive. So, and you got onto here really quickly. So I'm going to say that you're very tech savvy. You just don't know it,
Thank you. Thanks.
right? It's so good too.
You too. Can you hear me okay with this thing? If I need to take it off at any point.
No, you're good. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
Totally.
Awesome. Awesome. We've got some people already joining. So, um, first of all, have you had a good weekend?
I have. I told you this already, but we'll warn everyone else. I'm recovering from a cold that I had at the beginning of the week. So if I sound a little stuffy or if I sip on my tea, it's so that I don't start coughing.
What to do?
Oh, oh, I might need
There's
to
a lot of
turn
that
my
going around.
Wi-Fi on because I'm. Oh, there you are. You froze for a second. Let me
I
see.
might need your Wi-Fi.
Let's see if that's better.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know if it freezes up at all, and I'll end up moving or something like that. So,
Okay, same here.
uh, we'll get it worked. So, all right. So, for those of us that are joining, allow me to introduce myself. There are people on here I have never seen before, so it's awesome.
Yay.
I am, I know, right? My name is Brian, life coach. I help people that are deconstructing their faith and their journey, letting them go wherever they need to go to feel empowered and basically to discover who they are and
Mhm.
feel comfortable with who they are. And so I watch Eve's reels and TikToks all the time because I think
Thank you.
sometimes there are people that speak online that share it better than anyone else ever could.
Oh,
The way you do that, I still don't know how to do those bubble things or anything like that. So
I barely know.
depressed. So um, I obviously my page you can go to. It's coachingwithbrad.org, this is me on here. So if you need anything, feel free to DM me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. Um, Now, my guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to
Oh.
ask you to just take a moment and introduce yourself to everyone else that may, for some reason, not know you.
Yeah, if you don't know who I am, no judgment here. I'm shocked anytime anyone is like, "Oh, I saw your videos." It's still super weird. Um, I am Eve was framed. People have been calling me Eve for short. Love it. And I grew up in an evangelical Christian household. My parents were pastors, missionaries, all of that. Um, and lived that lifestyle for a solid 20, 25 years. And now here I am through a turn of events on the other side. I'm like a very outspoken atheist, ex-evangelical. I love confronting the trauma and abuse caused by the church. I still absolutely think there's a place for religion and all of that. So I'm not an anti-theist or anything like that. I just think that people's well-being should be taken into account. So and I'm over on TikTok mostly, but I try to get everything over here on Instagram when I can too. So that's where you'll find me.
Awesome, awesome. And we'll cover more of that later, so everybody knows where you are.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So my comments that I'm seeing pop up, are they the same ones that you're getting too? Do we get the same?
We
Okay,
should
cool.
get one.
On TikTok, it's like you only see your own, and then the other person only sees theirs, so you have to like tell each other what's going on. So I
Oh,
like this better.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you everything you see. And let me remind our audience, if there's anybody that wants to ask a question, there is a question area, or you can just ask it right there. I just want to miss the question I have for us today. So
Cool.
I see that was it DULZU Zura 7 has totally given away. Uh,
Yes, my name is Promise. So some people know that. I have no problem with people knowing that. I think for like continuity's sake, I just let the whole Eve thing happen because I get why people would think that's my name. But my name is even weirder than that. It's actually Promise.
I love it. It's a great name.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so you introduced yourself a little bit. Obviously, I ask questions dealing with religious background and where you're at
Yeah.
now, all those kinds of things. And we've talked a little bit about that. But would you give us some highlights of your religious background?
Yeah. Um, so like I said, my parents were pastors. I grew up kind of typical pastor's kid role where I was the free labor for a lot, ran the kids ministry. I was a youth pastor at one point. I also sang, and that was very important to my parents, was that I did worship leading. And so I led worship, most of my church career. And that, that was a big part of, honestly, my deconstruction is that stuff that came out of that. But I ended up, going from pastor's kid to, teenager, trying to be my best Christian version of myself and fulfill all these roles. And I wasn't that pastor's kid that rebelled and like did all the crazy stuff. I really tried to, not just be good, but be authentically myself and be good. I found that to be very difficult at a certain point. I ended up married at 19. It was like a typical purity culture romance, got a divorce, got remarried to what I thought was like the antithesis of that relationship. And it was in the worst ways. And
Yeah.
so then, my whole family moved out to LA. My parents were doing kind of like life coaching for people in the entertainment industry. And we all kind of moved out there, got really progressive with our Christianity. And then I started going with my husband at the time to Bethel School of Ministry, and I became a worship leader at Bethel. And then that's when Trump was put in office, and that's when my family's ministry went from progressive Christianity to nosedive into QAnon conspiracy theory, right-wing Trump supporting, very blindsided by that. That's when I saw the church in general kind of take that nosedive, and my
Yeah.
relationship was taking that nosedive. My spiritual life was taking, everything just kind of came to a head. And that's where my highlights ended of my Christian upbringing.
Okay. So, yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to the whole Trump,
Yeah.
say his name, 45, as some people call him,
Yeah.
or Rom,
Yep.
or whatever you want to call him.
Yes.
So it's just one of those, right? So,
Yeah.
you gave a little bit there, but what was there a turning point for you personally that led you to deconstruct and lead organized religion?
Yeah. I think on the one hand, it's like there wasn't, it was just like everything piled up on top of itself. Um, but for me, it was seeing, I started realizing that there was so much hypocrisy in the evangelical church. I saw like that shift from what I thought was a progressive move that we were going toward,
Mm-hmm.
to 45, to this right wing, really awful rhetoric that I just could not believe that people were either encouraging or, in my opinion, even worse, being silent about. And so that caused me to start actually being like, okay, no, I have to ask some of these questions. Like, as a Christian, I can't stand behind this. Like, if I actually love Jesus and what Jesus stands for, what I thought he stood for, then I have to ask these questions. And then I started realizing that I was dealing with religious abuse
Mm-hmm.
in the ministry I was working under. And because I saw that playing out in my own relationship at home. And then I was like, and this is what's happening in my relationship with God. So hold on a second. What do all of these things have in common? And that was the defining moment for me, where I was like, I have to decide, am I all in over here, or am I like really going to confront all of this head on?
Mm, mm. Yeah, we had a comment here by Spidey the Man.
Hi, Spidey. What's up? That's one of my friends.
Yeah, very. I love the name. I had already left the church before Trump, but he closed the door for me ever thinking of going back.
Yeah.
And I feel like we probably have a lot of people on here that have felt the same way.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is fascinating. So, how did you find the courage to use your voice? I don't want to say against religion, but to call out.
Yeah. The bad parts about it.
Yeah.
So I've always been, believe it or not, pretty outspoken and
No.
and pretty extroverted and very opinionated. I unfortunately was a huge Sarah Palin fan when I was 17, turning 18, and thank God I could not vote in that election. I was all in. I've always been pretty all in into what I do, and I'm a very loyal, like, passionate person. But I had not been taught to think critically. And so
that's a great point.
Yeah, so I was passionate about what I thought I was supposed to be passionate about. And I didn't know how to let that passion be a tool instead of be like my driving force.
Right.
And so I kind of, when I left, when I deconstructed, when I didn't even call myself an atheist at the time, but I did not believe there was a God. So, I still was an atheist. I was pretty reserved in talking about that. I would be really like vague and like post motivational stuff. But I was like, this is going to be my personal journey. And now I finally can back off from that side of me that's really outspoken. And, I kind of did the opposite extreme where I was like, I'm not going to be like that anymore. And my parents, unfortunately, their posts got so extreme and so harmful and hurtful. And I was hearing from people devastated by what they were posting, asking me, like, what do you have to say about this? And I was like, oh, they don't speak for me. Like, sorry that's happening. But I was still trying to just stay in my own lane. And
yeah. And
then I was saying it wasn't just my parents. It was all of it. And I was just like, I can't be quiet anymore. This was about 2 years ago. And I couldn't be quiet anymore. I know what's right, and I know what, when justice needs to happen. And so I started voicing little things here and there, not wanting to be in direct opposition to my family's ministry, but it was. And that was on Facebook, and that started catching on, and people were like, whoa, this is different than what we've been hearing from you. And then the insurrection happened, and I was just like, I'm here now. I can't be silent. So it was really, for me, not even a matter of gaining courage, but just not letting my past hold me back, of being afraid of being that same person again. I just had to decide, no, I've grown, and I can use this now as a tool instead of just like, blah, here I am with no filter,
Yeah. Awesome. So we have a question. It says, I'm curious your thoughts on the emotional impact for worship leaders needing to express a specific emotional vibe authentically week after week for the sake of the show. He wants to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. It is a show. I will say that. And a lot in the bigger churches. I felt like when I was leading worship in our smaller local church, that it was about being authentic, but even that was pressure. It was like pressure to show up authentically, which is not, it doesn't feel authentic. Like, what if today I don't want to show people this hurt or painful side of me, so I just need to be able to put on a face. Like, that can be authentic sometimes too. But it was like this thing where you had to like bear it all for Jesus. And then, so when I really started realizing what a show it all was at Bethel. And, literally you have in-ear monitors, which is great because then you can hear what you're singing.
Right.
But I also had a worship pastor in my ear telling me, okay, you need to raise your hands now, or hey, people are starting to cry, we're going to bring it down and we're going to have a moment here with Jesus. And it sounds like they're being helpful when you're in it, but there was always part of me that was like, this is icky. Like, we literally just manipulated a room of 1,500 people because we changed the chord. Yes. Or because we planned that I was going to sing out this special thing that I came up with weeks ago in my journal that one time I brought up, and now they thought it was good, and now they think that this is a spontaneous prophetic moment that I just heard from God. So yeah, there was the pressure. I'm trying to bring it back to the question, but the pressure of showing up as authentic without actually being authentic was awful. And that drove me into intense anxiety, panic attacks before going on to lead worship. One time I was having such a bad panic attack, and my worship pastor was like, let's just give you a sozo real quick, which is like this inner healing process that they would do at Bethel. And then we'll push you on there and you'll be great. And so, yeah, it's like really awful. And I also have worked in the entertainment industry before with music, and it's the same exact thing, but more toxic because they try to sugarcoat it with God. So it's the same pressure that's put on pop stars and, anybody in the public eye, except they act like it's not that. And to me, it was that hypocrisy that was so gross. Like, why are we acting like we're not just like every single other person in the entertainment industry? This is an entertainment industry. So I don't know if that answers the question at all.
No, actually, but good. And obviously, my story being a former pastor 20 plus years, I what went certain as well. And so I've worked with the past more of a drive for, these are the songs I want because they hit the emotion or whatever happened. There was always critique on how to make it more impactful. Mm-hmm. Or about emotion. Totally get that. Like, before.
Uh-oh. I'm losing you for a second here.
Oh, am I there again?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little. Oh, it says they're noticing it too.
Okay.
Now, I think you're back now.
Am I back now? Everybody good?
Yes.
Are we good there? All right.
Yeah, repeat that last thought.
Okay, I was saying that the goddess of Tetris says good morning. I don't know if you follow her, but she is she's wonderful. So she's a great person to follow.
Thank you.
Okay. Still breaking up. I see some comments. Am I good to go? Somebody give me.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Hopefully someone else will let us know.
Yes, they all have to talk. I start coming out, they all start talking. They stop talking. Different place.
I have a bad habit when I'm doing TikTok lives. I'll like be holding my phone a lot, and I'll cover up the microphone and just be like talking, and then I'll finally look, and everyone's like, "We can't hear anything you're saying right now."
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Okay, so let me dive into this a little bit. Somebody had asked a question about can you be agnostic and atheist at the same time. What I want to kind of get into here, and it kind of goes to my question a little bit. Mm-hmm. How has your new non-spirituality, if I can call it that, impacted your family, friends, and personal? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, I had such a weird deconstruction in that I left Bethel where I was a worship leader. I left my husband at the time. I left my entire community overnight, and I literally bought a one-way ticket. I packed a suitcase, and that was it. I left, and that was actually really helpful for me for the severity of what I was facing and the types of abuse and toxicity that was going on in my personal life. So I flew to the other side of the country, and I've lived here ever since. And so I was able to kind of start from scratch with my community and choose friends that our friendship is not based on our spiritual life. Our friendship is not based on our religious views. I have friends that are Christians. I have friends that are Hindu. I have friends that have all kinds of different faith backgrounds and atheist friends. I also have a few friends that I've had my entire life that I don't know how, but thank God somehow we ended up on the very same path, and they've deconstructed and ended up exactly where I'm at. And so that's been amazing. My best friend since I was like 12 years old, she and I have just had this same path together, and it's been really nice to have that. So as far as my community of friends, I got really lucky in that I got to start from scratch with people that genuinely like me for me and not because of anything else. Um, and same with my partner. That was, I had already fully deconstructed. I was like, this is me. so so that's been good. I hear a lot of people that are going through deconstruction with their spouse, and I cannot even imagine how difficult that would be because you can't always be on the same place no matter what. And that's a whole nother, I imagine knowing each other at one state of belief and then balancing out these new places would be difficult. But with my family, um, yeah, it was really tough. But honestly, my atheism is not what has upset them the most. It's not what's come between us all the most. It is the right wing QAnon political lean that they took. That's what's where I've had to put boundaries up, and where I've had to go no contact with some of them, limited contact with a lot of them. And my sisters, I have three younger sisters. We've all been really, really close, and that's been sad. We're not as close as we were at all. Some of them I have to be limited contact with because we have such opposing values at this point. So that makes it really difficult. When we are together, like when we have to have family, like I went to my sister's wedding, I wasn't going to miss that. We're able to interact with, positivity and keep it surface and have fun together. But there's not like a deep relationship there. And that has been tough. My brother, he's adopted and was adopted later in life. So we have like our own relationship that's super great. So that's been cool. So it's kind of all over the place.
Okay. Okay. Does it make the holidays difficult?
I do not spend holidays with them. Just to keep it, I feel like if there's any chance of us having positive relationship in the future, if there's any shifts that take place that would allow that, I don't want to create worse memories leading up to it. So keeping those boundaries has been really helpful.
Yeah. I am I choppy or I'm good now?
You're good on my
Okay.
end.
So I don't do holidays with my family either.
Yeah, okay.
Walked out. It was like, okay, I'm now burning and going to hell.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Oof.
so I don't need that on the holidays.
No,
So
no.
yeah, exactly. So you made a comment earlier, and maybe this will also help answer the agnostic atheist
Oh,
comment
yeah.
earlier. You made the comment earlier that you think that religion had a place, and so uh, should the church be abolished? Why or why not?
The very emotional, like unhealed part of me wants to say yes. um, but no, my personal value is that no, I don't think it should be. I think that religious freedom is important. I think that it's valuable to culture. I think it's valuable to mental health in some situations. I think that it's kind of like an ancient coping mechanism that was developed for people to find answers to things that science didn't yet have the answers for. Personally, I think now it's really cool how many questions are being answered by science, and it's the ones that aren't answered, I'm okay with it. I don't need answers. Um, so where was I? I just lost my train of thought because I'm going off. But I think that if you were to abolish the church, it's just creating a whole nother problem, and it's not helpful to the people that are still in it and that have found value within that. Now, what I am in favor of is taxing the church. I think that would allow for a lot more transparency. I am all for the banning of conversion camps. I also get really concerned when churches, you come to them with a problem and then they offer you counseling through somebody that's never had any experience with that. Um, I think more licensed professionals should be involved whenever the church is used for mental health. Uh, I don't know. I just think there does need to be some form of accountability there, and I don't know what that would look like. But I think if the church can exist while the well-being of others is not affected in a negative way, then that's great. It could actually be a positive tool.
That's interesting because be I struggle because I have clients that have suffered religious trauma,
Mm,
and largely it comes from the church so indoctrinating children
Yeah.
from the young age. I mean,
Yeah.
there's my struggle is after being a family life pastor and seeing the way in which the church looks at a little child and goes, "You're broken, you're
Yep.
sinful, you're bad. There's nothing good inside you except what comes from Jesus. You can never take credit for anything good you do. It's always the glory goes to God." And that mindset to these children that are not, they don't have the brain capacity, the critical thinking to form
Right.
that conclusion, right? And
Totally.
instead, what they're doing is they come out thinking a certain way that society is,
Yeah.
and then it hits them later, right?
Yep.
So
I mean, that's what happened to me. Yeah, totally. I grew up with that fear and like it wasn't like, "Oh, this is something you can believe." It's like this is absolute truth. And we're telling you that. Never question it.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and they'll do that. They won't
Yeah.
question. So instead
Yeah.
of looking like God's a murderer and genocide and killing all the people with a flood, they think, "Oh,
Right.
it's justice. It's God. He's allowed to do that. His ways are higher than our ways."
Yep.
Whatever have you. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and it's just a struggle, I'm sure,
It
for
is.
a lot of people.
And my take on that is if the church was abolished, that would still continue, unfortunately,
Hmm.
and probably worse. If anything, I feel like because I was homeschooled, I was very much like sheltered from the world, not even intentionally, just it happened that way because of the way I was raised. And my only outlet and my only glimpse into other people's lives actually was church. There were people that went to our church that like were allowed to do stuff and say stuff that I wasn't. And so that was I do think community, at least, even when it's community with people that are like minded, it still offers a little bit more insight into the real world and it still offers a little bit of exposure. And um, so that's why it's so tricky. It would be so great to snap our fingers and there not be any indoctrination for children ever again. It would be amazing. And I hope someday, I hope someday people care enough to look at literally the research that's proving the harm it's causing to children's brains, and then we have enough empathy to say let's look at this. But until then, I think all we can do is hope that they get enough education to become critical thinkers.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it gets in a scary point that if you can abolish, I think there's something off about. Not that I agree with
Right.
that, unnerving for me. So, um, how did you, once you left religion,
Mm-hmm.
how did you develop a new worldview?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because so the number one comment I get, not the number one because there's other ones, but one of the most common questions I get from Christians that are not progressive and that are definitely like mad in my comment section is, well, you have an atheist worldview. And that's not a thing. Like, I don't know any atheist that has the exact same worldview that I do. Just like, honestly, Christians do have, there is like a very similar worldview, but there's still, you have Christians that think you're going to hell. You have Christians that don't think that there is a hell. There's a lot of nuance there. And with atheism, you find that even more because the only thing we all agree on is that we are not convinced of a God. So my worldview is definitely like my own personal journey. That's nothing to do with religion or lack thereof. And it's changing every day. I'm constantly reading new books and hearing from different philosophers. And I think the one thing that's consistent that I'm very sure of is that I want to do what's best for my own personal well-being and for the well-being of others. And that's just kind of my I don't know, my life. That's the one constant that I have throughout different things changing. And I think that's the one thing that stuck with me, even when I was a very indoctrinated conservative Christian.
Right.
I deeply wanted to care for the well-being of myself and of others. And that's what led me into more progressive thinking. That's then what led me out of it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, because I get asked that question a lot as well. As a former pastor,
Yeah, I bet.
you have a Christian worldview, right? Because that's what they call it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and and I don't think people all the time realize that when people that are not deconstructing realize when people start to deconstruct, it's not just the theology that
Right.
constructed, but literally religion has seeped into every aspect of a person's life.
Oh, yeah.
But what to do, what to think, what to eat, what not to eat. I mean, you name it, religion. So when you start stripping away all of those entanglements that religion had on one at a time, you don't want to do it at the same time or you'll get crushed, right?
Right. Yeah.
Strip those away one at a time. It causes you to question everything about your worldview, just like
Yep.
you said. And it causes you to, I mean, I've questioned marriage. I've questioned,
Yeah.
is there a God? Is there not a God? Just the multiple, do I like pumpkin pie or don't I like,
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
everything's in question right now, right? So
Yeah.
it is interesting because I think you're right. I think everybody's worldview is going to be, it's always in a state of flux, it's always in a state of learning. And sometimes when we talk deconstruction, like when I talk with you, it's not so much about deconstruction. I think it's more about personal growth.
Yes, I agree.
Uh, a lot of people have this negative aspect of deconstruction of everything. There is great growth that
Yeah.
I've seen as well. So, all that to say, let me ask you this: so, someone comes to you as a natural, asks you, "Hey, deconstructing organ, what advice? You know, like what do I do?"
Yeah. I think my number one advice, first of all, is to not put a time limit, not put an end date, not rush yourself. To go as slow as you want. I think the part about Christianity was like you have to choose now. Like either you're all in or you're all out, and now this is your worldview. Like this is where you stand on all these things, and you have to fit into this role. And it's not like you can just like step outside of that and then know where you're at from there. You have to take your time figuring out like what pieces are you dropping forever, what pieces are you picking back up, try things back on. Nah, I really don't want that anymore. Still, give yourself time to figure out what you believe, why you believe what you believe. And if something is hard for you and you're like, I'm hitting a wall with this, then just let it go for a little bit. It's not life or death. It is not something you have to know right away. And then my second thing would be don't put limitations on it. I think when people go into deconstruction, and hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but if you go into deconstruction saying, I am going to deconstruct, but I am not going to ask this, or this, or I'm going to deconstruct up to this point, and I'm going to make sure I don't cross this line. I get why that feels safer, but take it from me, you will end up back in that place of having to ask those questions again. You will end up having to deconstruct even more. And so if you get it all out at once, then I think it's so much easier. And if you give yourself all the time you need, I'm still like in process, and there's some things I feel pretty sure about right now, but I'm also a lot of things I'm quick to say, I don't know what I think about that yet. Because you shouldn't have to. And I felt the pressure to in Christianity. If someone asks, what's your position on the gay community? It's like you couldn't be like, well, I'm not really sure. No, you had to know where you stood, like so many things like that were very binary, very black and white thinking. And I think giving yourself permission to, I love God is great, to address those gray areas is awesome.
Am I still breaking up? I got more comments saying I was breaking up.
You were breaking up a little bit. I could still hear what you were asking me.
Okay.
So,
am I good now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, I think that's great advice. I figure deconstruction may last my entire life for all I know.
Yeah.
And it's okay. There is no time table on it. I completely agree. And it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yes.
I've said that a lot.
Yeah.
Question, I'm like, well, I don't know. My opinion is,
Yeah.
you think, those kinds of comments. So,
did you feel as a pastor that you had to have answers more so than you feel now?
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think the rubber meeting the road for me was I was deconstructing all the way back to when, we had a miscarriage, and then
Mm,
I didn't know it though. I was just wrestling with things, and then some more things, and I was wrestling with homosexuality.
mm.
So my daughter, as I think we talked about, my daughter came out as bi when she was 12, and came out to her Sunday school or her small group, as it's called,
Wow.
right? So,
How
and
brave is she?
I'm in a church of about 2,000 people, and so they all come running up to me because I am the family life pastor. So I should have my kids under control, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
children, students, collegians, and young adults, and so I'm I'm sitting there and I go, oh, okay. She didn't tell me, but that's okay. That's all right. And my daughter and I have a great relationship, and
Yeah.
and so where it hit was when they said, "Don't worry, we're praying for her. We're going to help her work through this. Basically,
Mm.
we're going to fix her."
Wow.
And in my mind, I'm like, "Oh hell no!
Right.
That's what are you talking about?" And I
Yeah.
started deconstructing that process, and I was like, "Okay, well, if it's between the church or my daughter, the church is going to lose every time." And
Wow. What an amazing
really,
dad.
that was a big turning point. Bye, see ya.
Yeah.
And so you walk away and you start over completely, everything, because you literally lose everything
Right.
when it comes down, and you know how that is. I mean,
Yeah.
and people look at you like you got the plague, and no one wants to talk to you after that. And
It's
they
so true.
can't talk to a worship minister or a pastor, nor an actual pastor, because something really had to go off the rails for people that have been trained with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. I just
Yeah. The smear campaigns, too, they have to put on to make it seem to invalidate, your position.
they still follow me. Like,
Yes. I was about to say, I see all the time people watch my stories that I haven't talked to in years that like would
mhm.
never want to be associated with me, would never want to have anything to do with this. But there's
Yeah,
interest.
they they don't talk to me. They
Right.
follow me so they can debunk anything I say.
Yeah.
Thing. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Um, but I choose to put my energy somewhere else. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this: um, people that are interested in following you, hearing your story, TikToks, everything, because I know you have like I think probably 4 bazillion podcasts, all that kind of stuff, right?
I
Rightfully.
have some coming up.
Well, good, and that's awesome. So, would you mind sharing with us how we can get in touch with you, what we can watch, what can we look forward to you doing in the future?
Yeah. So, as far as specific podcasts, I will, whenever I know of one that's going to be released, I'm starting to record them all now. So, I don't know what their timeline is for releasing those, but I will make sure I post over here on Instagram, is probably the best way to see when those are coming up. TikTok is not so great about letting me share about other apps. But
Yeah.
I will post whenever I have one of those coming up. I do. Tonight I'm recording with Mother of Heathens, for anybody who knows who that is. And I'll post about it, but she has a Patreon. So for those of you who want to sign up to support her, which I highly recommend you do, I'm going to be her first podcast guest. And so
Yeah,
she and I are hanging out tonight. Yeah.
nice.
So we're recording that. I don't even know what we're going to talk about, so I'm sure it'll be really fun. And so that'll be a way. I'm sure she'll put that out quickly. She's really the opposite of me when it comes to this kind of stuff. And then the next thing I'm super excited about is, for those of you who know Dave Warnock from Dying Out Loud, he has that GD show. And it's on YouTube. It's a live show. And then it's December 20th. He has a Christmas special. So I'm going to be on there with Jagazas and Christy Burke and several others that you all love. And we'll be talking about Christmas and the holidays and family dynamics and the
Uh,
roots of Christmas and all kinds of stuff.
yeah,
So it'll be really fun. Get you guys prepped for the next week of holiday stuff.
that's
But
awesome.
other than that, yeah, TikTok, it's the same thing. And that's the best way to see my content. That's where you'll always see what I'm posting. And then Instagram's the best way to keep up with what's next.
All right, all right, and we look forward to listening to those podcasts that you'll be doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think I speak for all of us when we love your content, love and adore.
Thank you.
And the wonderful thing is it's so well done. Like the way in which you're so intelligent. Okay, the way in which you
Thanks.
things and put it out there for people to think about is awesome. So thank you for what you're doing and bringing awareness to a lot of harmful aspects of religion or structure.
Yeah,
So appreciate you. I can't
that
thank
means a lot.
you here either. And to everybody watching, thank you for being here. Those that are going to watch, thank you for following all the way through.
Yes, thank
Please,
you guys.
please give her a follow. To all my peeps that don't follow her, give her a follow. She's well worth it.
Yeah, and same to my guys, especially those of you that have been asking about life coaching and help that I would be horrendous at offering you. Brad is the guy.
Well, I appreciate that. You rock, and let us know.
Thank you.
We're just excited. Can't wait. Can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Brad. Thanks, everybody.
Everybody, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.